Hello everybody, Doug here from 2 Plus Stuff, just chilling out and getting settling in for some painting progress. As you can see, we got a bunch of cool stuff right here, front and center. Got 3 units of Castigators, some Griffhounds to go along with the Night Judicator, I think is what he's called. So yeah, it's going to be pretty simple. If you have ever seen me paint my particular brand of Stormcast, the Knights Excelsior, before, you know what is in store. So, what I would just ask, because YouTube is kind of funny sometimes, if you could just tell me if you can hear and see me okay, I would greatly appreciate that. Saves me many headaches. Ben Drake, wait, really? I don't know what you mean by wait, really. Corey Bragg, hey buddy, you will be happy to know right here off camera, and I'll pull them up, are the first 2 players of my Blood Bowl team, the Gorka Cola Flava Crushes, or Thirst Smashes, that's what it is, Thirst Smashes. Sound good or good for you? Awesome, thank you so much, buddy. So, first step to all of my Stormcast paint is just to douse all of the armor, basically, in Apothecary White, as it really does help to separate all the white panels and stuff. Really helpful. Oh, in terms of the title of the episode, no, they're not OP. They're not in any way, shape, or form. But, you know, never believe what you see on the internet, even if it's people collectively agree upon it. No, I was just having fun. I am going to be using them pretty heavily, though, I think. Simply because I have a local... My main opponent that I play against, soon to be opponents, plural, because now there's 2 of them, are folks who play Soulblight Gravelords, and the answer to that is shooting, because you have to have some way of mitigating the heroes. However, I refuse to just do nothing but spam Raptors. Like all of my fellow Stormcast player friends seem to do. So, not super into that. So, point is, I'm just trying out some different shooting units. So I have Castigators. I have 3 units of them from all the Soul Wars boxes I've been able to piece together through friends and various small deals. Got 3 of them, and then... you know, they provide some shooting. I just don't want it to be, you know, I lose 90% of my games against Soulblight because I can't outgrind them in the attrition game. However, like, I also don't want to flip the pendulum to where my opponent can't have any fun because the suffocating power of ridiculous amounts of shooting and stuff. And so I'm hoping Castigators can be a good, you know, balance. This isn't an arms race. We're not trying to crush my friends. I just want to have an option, you know? This way, when me and my buddy Jeremy, when the shooting phase comes, we don't just kind of look at each other and shrug, because Lord knows he's a death army. He doesn't have a single gun. Unless someone throws their, like, arm or something. Let's see... Oh no, 2 Soulblight players. They're awesome. One of them is just starting the game, so he's only at about 750, 1,000 points. And the other one, Jeremy, is quite good at miniature games in general. He's been playing them for a while, so he's been the one who's been the tough nut to crack. If you'll mind the awkwardness of that saying. We got rerolling Jack here. Judge Judy over here. Me? I'm not being Judge Judy, no. No. I mean, you know, if I was going to a tournament, yeah, I'd load up on Raptors, because why wouldn't you? You'd be silly not to. But you know, still trying to make friends, establish an AOS group locally. So we don't need to be doing the not so Cold War between weapons. I used to run Sacrosanct Lift with maxed out squad of Castigators. Nice. I've heard decent things about them. They've certainly gotten a facelift, like all of the Sacrosanct stuff did. I think, but we will see how they go. I'll report back. How about that? I'm not gonna like design my entire collection or list around them or anything like that. You know, I'm not in love with Castigators. I just want to have an option to throw some damage out at range. Although, you know, I do also have Vigilors, which are kind of the next thing to paint. I thought these would be fun to just knock out real quick because they're very simple. 3 dudes to a model, to a unit rather. It seems fairly quick and painless. If y'all are playing at a shop, at least Soulblight have a really good WoW factor. Oh, sorry, Corey. I'm allergic to bullcrap answer. I'm just kidding. No, that is absolutely true. They have a beautiful thing. Mostly play so far in my buddy Jeremy's house, but yeah, whenever we get around to playing back at the store, and that's kind of the goal. I think is to eventually do quite a bit with our local store. And his Soulblight army is just absolutely stunning, as is Robbie's, who's the other gentleman who's just getting into the game. They just all look incredible. So absolutely. Bless you. Thank you. 15 crossbow Judicators. Nice. Is that Apothecary White? It is. I love Apothecary White. So the way that I paint my Knights Excelsior with the white armor, you prime with Wraithbone, because it has that little dash of warmth that Greyseer doesn't. I like it quite a bit. So prime with Wraithbone and then do Apothecary White and just let that sit for a while. And I'm very messy with it. It gets everywhere. And then because it's the bottommost layer, right? And so then we're going to build it up. Once this is dry, I'll take a thin down Null Oil with a detail brush, and I'll just go and pick out the major armor plates. So for example, like on the Stormcast, like their chest, right? They got like well-defined pecs and 8-pack abs and all these kinds of things. Just trace the liner brush with some thinned out wash in between those. Makes the armor plates really stand out from one another. And then yeah, if you need to tidy up stuff, the best thing about Apothecary White is that the color Ulthuan Grey is almost identical. And so if you need to tidy things up, if you just use Ulthuan Grey over it, you don't even have to like put any kind of base color or whatever. You're good to go. It'll just pop and look great. It's one of the reasons I love Beasts of Chaos. They have enough model diversity and a unique aura for sure. Well, if it ain't Dougie hey, Britt. So yeah, that's basically. I have like, if you guys didn't see it, I posted it on social media. I should post it on the community tab here. I had a priming day the other day. Like I just spent 2-3 hours outside. We finally had a day where it was a warm, sunny 36 degrees, and so I took advantage of the nice warm weather and went out and primed for a while. Okay. So I have like 4 different containers that are just filled to the brim with primed models behind me. I got stuff for Conquest. Obviously, I got stuff for Blood Bowl. I am waiting on a few things. I know that I said I was going to be painting a lot of Conquest, but I'm waiting because I didn't realize I lost the shields on some of my dwarf models from that game, so I'm really bummed about that, but it is what it is. But somebody was nice enough on the forums to hook me up, and so I'm just kind of waiting on those to go any further. I don't really like having like half-finished units. Like, they're pretty much done except for the shields. But I'm like, I don't even want to base them. I don't want to look at them. I'm just going to put them off to the side, and I'll get it when I get it, kind of a thing. So helps keep me a bit sane. Okay, for the Griffhounds, I don't really know what color to go on those guys, if I am totally honest with you. I did, let's see. Yeah, there we go. Oh, the scope on the bow. Yeah, I added it from... It's one of the many of thousands of bits that you get from the Celestial Huracanum kit. Let's see. Mark Sneas Calgar. Hey, Doug, it's been a while since I caught you live. Hope you're doing good. Thank you so much, buddy. It's good to see you. Doing really well. I'm doing much better since things have kind of settled down since the holidays. We got done with our immediate holiday things, and then last weekend... my grandmother-in-law took a fall and was in the hospital. She's fine. But we were there while she was getting... She had to have a minor surgery, outpatient thing. And so we're all kind of there, and it was just a lot of after holidays. Not drama, that's not the right word, but, you know, like stuff, right? It's just family stuff. And so it was a lot, but we all made it through. She's healthy as a horse at the ripe old age of 91. And you can't ask for more than that. So it's been a bit, been a wild journey last couple of weeks, but we survived. Now I did a purple into almost like a iridescent blue for one of my Griffhounds on a chariot. And so essentially I'm just looking to redo that, but for a Griffhound of smaller size. One thing I learned very early is that because the main color of my army is white, the animals and that kind of stuff, it all has to be very loud, otherwise because like if I had this thing be a white body, he ain't gonna look good next to anybody because it's not armor. So it doesn't look quite right, and then he just kind of pulls away from the armor of the Stormcast around him. Like, no, I can't be having that. So that's Uncle Doug's lesson to you. If you go with a normal color on your armor, have weird animals. If you have weird color on your armor, go with normal looking animals, whatever contrasts them. Let's see. Greetings, Lore Master and friends. Been way too long since I caught a live stream. Working on some Wadroon models. Nice. Yeah, I got my Duodecom on the shelf right beside me. I don't know if you were here for it, but I just said I'm missing the shields on big old block of Hold Warriors, so I'm a little bummed about that. But I got some on the way. And I think it's pretty rad. Man, I think it's next week that the Hellbringer Drake goes up for pre-order. And for the Duodecom, which if you don't know is essentially... so I know that most folks here are like really into AOS. So imagine if they took a Magmadroth and saddled him with two cannons the size of his own torso on each side of him. And then there's like an actual dwarf firing each cannon independently. And then on the top is a sorcerer just like death metal yelling at the enemy, and they charge forward and fire guns and all that kind of stuff. That's basically what this thing is. And it's awesome. And it is the best. Let's see. What do I want to do for the other one? I think I'll think about that for a sec. Back to these guys. Are you dry yet? Almost. We'll give them a sec. So yeah, let's keep working on these guys. Let's see. Let's grab some Jaquero Orange. It goes up for pre-order again. Yeah, they had some trouble before, right? Greetings to all. I have a question, good sir. Is it possible if you could also provide a tutorial for how to play with the Spires from Conquest, since I'm building my own Spires army? Oh yeah, like a walkthrough? I could do that. It's, it's one of those things. I never want to be mistaken for someone who, I don't want to say is good at the games, because that's not true. I do tend to be quite good at games once I learn the fundamental, like what's the most basic part of it, like movement and stuff. But I will absolutely be happy to share my limited experience. If nothing else, like I did play them several games for quite a while, and then realized like, this isn't the faction for me. That's mainly because I like to have armies with like a slightly more decent base stat line. Like the Spires can have incredible stat lines. Like they can swing way above their weight class, but that usually comes from synergies and buffs and that kind of stuff. And I was just really at the time struggling to grasp that with the way like draw events work, which is just its only very unique mechanic. And so I was having trouble with that. I was like, what's another faction that like is pretty on the level from the get-go? Hold Warriors. Cool. Dweg home. And for this guy, we're gonna do Tiger Stripes. We're gonna have him be a tiger, dog, cat, bird. Oh, there we go. Let's see. Nice, I just finished up my 100 Kingdoms army for now. Probably going all in on Old Dominion guys when they come out. There are some truly cool looking models from that set for sure. That is going to be a hard one to resist, but I believe I will find a way. We'll see how much the studio tempts me if they send me anything to review. They're like, Doug, do it. Do it, Doug. Because they know that I'm weak. I don't know. I don't know if actual Parabellum watches this channel enough to know how weak I am when it comes to starting new factions. They may not have picked up on the meme yet. That is Doug Griggs and his chances of swapping armies. I've only done it once with Conquest, and I've actually, I've been playing some TTS with it, and I'm much more satisfied with where I'm at right now with my Dweg home. It's mainly just because I get them, right? Like they're a straightforward enough faction that it's like, I get this. Tiger Stripes is usually the answer. Oh, you pre-ordered it back May. Okay. I did not. I must have just missed it. I never saw the pre-order window for the Drake the first time, so that's kind of interesting. Just do a little dash. Here we go. Let's see. Thanks, and yes, I chose because I like their designs. Plus, I thought they kind of resembled the mechanics of the vampire counts from Warhammer. Yep. Very much so. They are the... I guess Old Dominion is going to be sort of the demonic / undead faction that they have. But yeah, I would say in terms of, yeah, if you're talking about game tropes, they are very much an undead-like faction. Quite cool in that regard, even though they operate somewhere between like vampires and elves, and you know, they're just a really cool, unique take on a lot of things. I actually like that a lot. I'm going to do that same thing over here. I didn't mean to do the face purple. This is the exact, so the first chariot that I painted, I did this exact same scheme. So I should probably tell you, the Knight Judicator and these Gryphounds that go with them are actually not for me. They're for my buddy Shu over at Rerolling Ones, which if you want some fun battle reports with some cool people to make you laugh, go sub. But every year we do a I can't believe it's not Christmas gift exchange, basically is what I'm calling it, where, you know, every Christmas we try to paint up a model that the other person wants. We do like a Secret Santa type thing. And this year, this is what he asked for. He wanted a Knight Judicator, specifically in my Knights Excelsior theme. I think it's a subtle nod to be like, hey Doug, if you ever sell that army, I've already got one of them. So that's definitely the sense that I'm getting. But hey, I'm just happy to paint it. Plus, it's easy to work into my painting rotation with all my other Knights Excelsior. Let's see. Finally getting around to paint my Fire Slayers, and now I feel rushed with a new book coming out. Ah, don't rush, buddy. Don't rush. If anything, you're in the best position of all, because you get to see what things are like and be like, yeah, you know what? Maybe I will prioritize X over Y, kind of a thing. Perfect. I'll do one more thin coat of the Jakiro orange just to even out some of the color here. See, Brent, I just feel like Conquest is a little more straightforward than Warhammer. I would agree with that. And I definitely picked it up much easier just because there's no stratagems and stuff. Yeah, the body of knowledge that you need to have to play a basic game, I think, is far less. And you know, it's just more in line with, I guess, I don't want to use the word like traditional war games, but I mean in terms of like, here's your army list. It's for free. It's online, PDF, download it, read as much as you want and or can, and just, you know, you hang out. You don't have to be constantly keeping up with boxes and that kind of stuff. There's a lot going on. Somebody asked about the Castigators. They're a mix. At least one of them, one of the sets, I think, is from the current thing. I think I have 2 things from the Soul Wars. Some of the models broke, and then I was able to get extras from a Soul Wars set, so they're kind of mingled. I didn't buy a single Castigator, like, for myself. Like, I bought a whole bunch of sprues from my buddy Jeremy to fill up the ranks, but that's about it. That's about as close as it gets. Okay, let me just get situated a little bit better in my chair. And I'm going to punt the Gryph-hounds off to the side for now. Let's take a look. Where do I want to start? So I usually do the shades and stuff last, because I will have to go back in with Ulthuan Gray blah, blah, and clean up from the other colors I do. But at this point, so I've been painting each. This is an opportunity for you guys to have input on how my paint scheme goes. So the colors for a Knights Excelsior: white armor with blue inside the shoulder pads and shields, and gold trim. But for the fabrics, like Sacrosanct and On, when they started having fabrics, they alternate between black and like a maroon. I've been using Baraknar Burgundy, I think is what it's called. Yeah. And it looks sick. So I guess now my question is, for the Castigators, do I want them to have, like, I guess the question is, how do I want their robes to go? Because I could do them all same color, could have them all in black, I could have them all in maroon, could have the top part be one, bottom part be another. I do want them to be uniform, because I don't know what configuration I want them to be. But I haven't yet decided the color. Let me see, I think I have a painted Sequitur. Let me go see real quick. Alright, so here's one of my Sequiturs. You can kind of see the scheme I'm going for. White armor, blue plate, gold trim. I'm actually thinking of having them be the inverse. So I have a melee unit. Ranged unit's going to be... So what the inverse of this would be black up top around the collar, and then red, like the maroon, for the base. I think that sounds good. Personally, I think with Stormcast, keep them as similar as possible. Yeah, I'm not going outside that wheelhouse of colors, but I want there to be some denoting that they are in fact different. Okay, so let's do that. Let's... Where's it at? So we're gonna do exactly what I just described. So we'll go over with the black. Actually, I'm trying to think, should I start, depends on the model, should I start with the burgundy or the black? I should probably start with the That's a better idea because it's going to be down below. So I'll go over it. There we go with the black. That makes more sense. Took me a second. Had to reboot the brain there, but we got it figured out. But I agree. In general, I do keep the variations to a minimum because they are meant to be somewhat uniform. Do you think Stormcast Beasts should complement or contrast their masters? Oh yeah, I think I don't have a strong opinion when it comes to the colors, but in general, like I think it's really, really cool when if you have a fantastic looking set of armor. So for example, the blues of, you know, Tempest Lords, or, you know, like just kind of like non-traditional, non-metallic kind of armors. I think if you have a fantasy-esque armor, you should have a more down-to-earth set of animals, and vice versa. So like my guys have very cold and uniform armor. It's all white. And so I made my beasts bright and highlightery, and they pop and draw the attention, kind of a thing. As far as like in specific colors, I got nothing for you. But typically, if you have a tame, realistic force, I tend to go the way of having a fantastic set of monsters and vice versa. Yeah, that's right. And then the top part is the back, the front, and that thing that comes all the way down to the bottom. Cool. Neat. Do you ever find that some GW paints are so pigment heavy that they're hard to work with? Not particularly. I find them to be pretty consistent. The contrast paints, I've noticed a lot of pigment variation paint to paint. Like some colors you could do 1,000 layers and it still just looks like a glaze over whatever you painted it over, which is good. But other colors like Cygor Brown, like good luck, nerd, seeing anything underneath that. It is so opaque. But that's where I notice the most variation, with the exception of what tend to be like white colors, White Scar, and like Pallid Witch Flesh is a color I've never, in my history of painting, had a good experience with. It always is chalky, gross, and ends disastrously. I'm painting my Stormcast Vanguard very similar to yours, except the white is colder. My Aether Wings are based on the Mountain Parrot. Oh, that's awesome! Yeah, I wanted mine to be a little bit warmer so that kind of the coldness of the color is kind of not suffocating and out of place when I put them on my Gur basing scheme, where it has like the nice warm tan colors and that kind of stuff. I find it makes them look real sharp. If you're thinking, Doug, you missed a nook and or cranny, I will simply counter argument to you. It's just a Castigator. Let's see. Do you think GW has slow rolled new lore since debuting 3rd edition. It just seems like they were more frequent. I agree. I do. I think that they got really excited when they, at the time, as most of us did, thought that the worst of the pandemic was over. And we're like, we're not going to slow down on our production stuff. Launch AOS 3.0. And then when the supply chain problem, which was we'll call it an aftershock of all the things going on in the world, happened, I think they've just delayed pretty much everything for AOS since. That is an assumption. I have no insider information. GW has told me nothing. I know nothing. In general and specifically about this. So take that with a grain of salt. But it just kind of seems they were really, really gung-ho about getting the edition out, and then everything just went to a dead stop. So I don't quite know. But I do know that they have, slowed stuff down. I mean, I would have assumed we would have had at least one Path to Glory supplement by now, but I also try to be reasonable with what's going on in the world. I guess it's interesting because it's easy to say like, well, lore is also one of those things that doesn't require distribution. They could just put it up on their site, but I don't know. I also don't find that stuff nearly as exciting as a campaign book or something like that. I know some people love when they do short stories. I'm pretty indifferent, if I'm honest. I like the campaign material where you can see where the forces are moving and that kind of thing, and that takes an immense amount of time and effort to coordinate. So I'm like, yeah, it's... Okay. Oh, thank you so much, Vernon. I really like the base paints from GW. I bought some Dr. Drop Top lids for them. Oh yeah, I've seen those. Yeah, I have I say local. I mean, it's about an hour and a half away, but there is a store nearby that has a selection of those drop top things that snap right onto GW bottles. I have been tempted before to grab some, at least for like my metallics. Stuff that I have the lids open a lot for, that I'm worried about them drying out. Why put it up for free when you can put it in a book and make money? Because you can't put it in a book and make money anymore, man. That's the problem, is like your logic is flawless until world supply and distribution and manufacturing crumbles to a dust. Or crumbles to dust. Dust. There we go. There's the word. I'm a professional speaker for a living. I don't know if you guys know that. My wife and I do the same thing of like, whenever we kind of fumble up our sentences, she goes, I'm a writer. And she is. She's a full-time writer now. Which is funny. Let's see. My friend and I are starting to build our conquest stuff soon. 100 Kingdoms versus Dwego. Nice. "100 Kingdoms" got some sweet looking models on pre-order this week. Got a new cavalry unit. They got all kinds of cool stuff, actually. I don't know why they just didn't grip me, and I think part of it with 100 Kingdoms is that a lot of their, well, I say this, but it's changed a lot since when I first got into Conquest. But I feel like a lot of their more unique units, like the orders and that kind of stuff, they don't have model kits yet, and so I was like, well, you know, I appreciate the aesthetic of the faction in total, but I want to see what these models look like, and so. But that's changed because they've had, I think, at least previewed some of them, and they are getting pretty regular rules updates and stuff like that, so I think they're in a good place right now in terms of like their model range and having things to represent stuff. Let's see. What kind of brush is that, Doug? This is... People are going to... Tobolowski Kolinsky. It's, I got this from my buddy Squidmar. He has a paint set, and I'm sure he'd be horrified if he saw me treating it like this, but that's the nature of the business. That's what happens when you send stuff to old Doug. But it's a very nice brush. I like it. I really like it for these kind of wide spaces, like capes and stuff like that. I certainly don't use it for any kind of detail, but I was watching one of his videos when he was talking about his brush. He's like, you shouldn't use it for metals. You shouldn't use it for contrast. You shouldn't use it for this, that. And he starts listing these things off, and I'm like, well, what in the ever-loving hell are you going to paint with it? What do you get it for? Bragging rights? And I'm just having a good time. But it's about keeping the bristles and that kind of stuff perfect. And, you know, my thing is, it's a brush. I need a brush. I'm going to stick this brush inside this paint pot. Boom. Presto magic. We're painting. Anything else is a complication. Afternoon, are those going to be ready for me to try to take off the table? Ooh, Pyromancer. Do I know you in real life? I don't. I'm terrible at remembering usernames. But probably is the answer to your question. Okay, sweet. Now let's see. No, first layer is not done. Okay, and for this guy, we are going to give him a royal looking cape. So we're going to do the maroon on him. Remember, this is not for me, this is for somebody else. It's just in my same scheme. So it's okay if he doesn't kind of fit the mold as far as like shooting units have. Oh, hey Rob. Sorry, buddy. Will they be ready for you to shoot off the table? Let's see, we're playing on Sunday. I hope so. They can probably be painted, maybe not based. I gotta get a lot of recording done tomorrow. We were gonna have family in town, and then unfortunately they caught the COVID, so no coming over, which is a bummer. We were gonna go have a good day in Illinois. But that is alright, as long as everyone's safe and happy. Could not care less about a shopping trip. Let's see. Now that's a pallet. Despoilers, herds down. You start collecting. Have Doug, would you go Bulgor or Dragon Ogre? For me personally, I go Bulgor. Always, always. Mainly just because I like their base attack stat more. You know, it's like everything in the entire Beast of Chaos Battle Tome has trouble hitting. The difference is when the Bulgor hits, it hits real hard. And that's kind of what you need if everything else you're running is light or something like that. Perfect. Nice thin layer. That'll need to dry before we can do any more with that particular color. Oh, let's see. What's next? So all of these guys, the purple, it's still drying on all of them. We'll do one quick color on a Griffhound and we'll move on from there. Let's do... No. Okay. Unfortunately, my collection of oranges is very limited for whatever reason. So here's the game plan. This is why my palette is the way it is, friends. That palette would make Bob Ross blush. Aww. I'm assuming that's a compliment. I don't really know. I like Bob Ross. I think he'd be into it. He seems very much like a do whatever you want kind of guy. Didn't really lighten it up as much as I wanted. Oh, because it was a big bubble. It wasn't actually paint coming out of the thing. Damn. Squig Orange has some pigment to it. Dang. Where's a... Here. I'm just trying to lighten the color and brighten it just a smidge, but like, it just does not want to. Boom. Big old wad of what I'm assuming was once upon a time white scar. There we go. And much in the spirit of Bob Ross, who I definitely was watching last night. I'm just gonna make this color up. I think I'll know it when I see it. You know? You ever watch a lot of his things? He just kind of starts mixing stuff and he's like, don't force it, just let it happen. And you're like, I don't know what you're doing, Bob. I can't let it happen if I don't know what you're doing. But he's generally just making up new colors on his palette. And then when we do the orange wash on this guy to bring it all together, it'll look real good. It's definitely a compliment. Oh, good. How do you clean that palette when you're done? I don't. Here's what I do. You ready? I just flip it over to the other side. The little pro gamer paint move. Okay, so we're gonna go back to our burgundy, and I'm just gonna do one quick thin layer just to basically flesh out the color on their capes, and then we'll move on to the next thing. What are your thoughts on units that have minions that orbit them, like the Lord Imperatant? My thoughts on them. I've heard them called a liability because their base sizes are then bigger. For example, like, you know, the Griffhound around the Lord Imperatant increases the size of that dude's base, as opposed to this guy who just gets 2 free Griffhounds. For me, you know, I've played the Lord Veritant a lot, but I've never been in a position where that has affected anything. Now, I have, and also, just to be fair, been in a position where, like, I guess in a similar kind of way, the crew for the ballista that the Stormcast have, they kind of do the same thing. They're not, you know, diminutive monsters or beasts or whatever, but they do orbit the base in the same way of, like, they're all the same unit. Get with it. Excuse me. Man, not sure it's up with me today. I was doing some house cleaning earlier, and I think I was just kicking up a lot of dust. But, you know, I've had experience with those kinds of units, and that one I've definitely had 1 or 2 cases where the dudes got charged because, or the unit got charged just because one of the dudes was hanging out a little too far. I like it a lot more than if you were around when AOS 1 first launched. There was a point in time, at least for some of the Empire kits, where it would be like, hey, if you have, depending on the number of crewmen you have left alive, it changes the profile of the weapon that's firing. And man, that gets real annoying when you have to keep track of everybody. And then initially there was nothing to say that the unit couldn't split up. So, like, it was a weird sect of time where it was just like you would put a cannon down and then the crew would go ha-ha and run away. That way they wouldn't die and the cannon could keep firing, even though it's very clearly not the point of the rule. But, you know, gamer's gonna game. We still had the last gasps of the fantasy battle community, I guess, at that point. That was trying to, like, you know, apply their rules logic, which was founded, to Age of Sigmar, which at that point didn't have a whole lot of rules logic, so it was much more of a historical game style of just open rules, do whatever you want, no that kind of stuff. Anyway, I way digress from the point. How do I feel about him? I like him. He's cool. He's a little doggo. It does make it awkward when you're doing attacks, and it's like, well, the dog attacks with this profile, but the dog's in melee or in combat, he's only within range of this unit, but I wanted to put all the attacks into this other unit. That gets a little awkward, but I've only ever had that issue once, where I couldn't put all the attacks that I wanted into something. But honestly, at that point, he was dead man anyway. It didn't really matter. That was like his last gasp of trying to kill a vampire before he died. I think it was what's her putz? The old lady from Soulblight. Oh, Wargamer Willie, buddy, thank you so much. As always, if you throw something in the chip jar, you get to domineer the topic. Willie, what you want to talk about, buddy? Thank you so much for your support all the time, dude. It means the world to me. I feel like for the first time since I went full-time, I'm finally, like, getting my feet under me, which sounds strange, but man, transitioning from a full-time job into self-employment is not easy, and I didn't know that. Well, I mean, I had a guess, but I guess, I mean, I knew it wasn't going to be easy, but I'm not in the ways that I thought, like in terms of personal motivation, goal setting, you know, that kind of stuff. Okay. Let's see. Give me just a hot second here so I'm not sniffling in the microphone. That's a present for all of us. Listen to Doug snort and sniffle all day. Where's the black? Here we go. So, whenever I paint black, I actually don't go all the way black. This is black gray from Vallejo, which I got at a local craft store. And the nice thing is it's just a hair off black, so when you put a wash, like Nuln Oil on something, the actual recesses are black, but everything else, there's enough color variation to be able to tell. I like that quite a bit. Love all the live streams. It's so cool, both collecting Stormcast right now. I have so many similar projects going. I know. Well, it's about to take a side turn from Stormcast here in a little bit, because if you didn't know, my buddy Jack from Rerolling Ones, he didn't have much of an interest in the Bone Splitter aspect of the new Orc War Clans book. However, that is the only part of that book that I have an interest in, and so I've got those headed my way, and I will be playing some Bone Splitters here pretty soon. I'm very excited about it. Busting out the boys. It's gonna be awesome. Someone on Twitter last night shared a poll that was like a scorekeeping of the factions that have the most like 0 win records, like at events and stuff like that. I assume it was. And Bone Splitters was on the top of the list by quite a margin. So apparently it's like, I didn't realize I was stepping into hard mode, but that's what's going to happen. And I am quite excited for it. I love a challenge. Until it gets hard and then I give up. I have so many orcs, all 3 options. Nice. Oh yeah, these guys are gonna look rad. Yeah, it's so my thing is the Cruel Boys, this the models never grabbed me, and I've always been honest about that. Just didn't do anything for me, but I love their concept. I love the feel. Iron Jaws I've painted before, don't have any interest in painting again. But the Bone Splitters, something special about them. Part of it's nostalgia. It really was one of my favorite battle tomes when it first came out, because at that point they were just taking these old model kits from fantasy battles and just breathing all kinds of new life into them. I thought it was really interesting how they did that with the monster theme, which you know, I feel like in some ways they've kind of moved away from, but yeah. Sorry for flooding the chat. No, you're good. You're good. My question: what are your thoughts on Big Wah? Do you prefer going pure Bone Splitters or Big Wah? I run all Iron Jaws, but I love the Big Wah. So, to be super transparent, I have hardly looked at the Big Wah rules. I'm going to this weekend because now I know my stuff's on the way. And it probably is the smartest way to run the models that I'll have. So I'm sure I will try it. I have no doubts. That being said, you can run Big Wah and still stick predominantly to one sub-faction, so that is probably what I'm going to end up doing. I'll check it out. The nice thing about the Bone Splitter stuff, though, is just you just always have a save. There's just something nice. Even though it's just a 6-up, once per game you can turn it into a 4-up. It's some cool stuff. You know, and it's one of those things, like, I'll tell people that, and folks online, they mean well, but they're like, well, you know, there's just going to be some matchups that you struggle against. I'm like, okay, well, I only have to worry about one matchup, and that's Soulbite Grieflords, because that's what everyone around me plays. So I'm going to build a theme around that, and anything else is just a bonus. Waiting on my Dominion box? Nice! Do you think any of the new helmeted troop heads will fit on Andrasta? You know, I have her, but she's tucked away in a closet. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. My gut says yes, because I have seen conversions that people have made with Andrasta and a Stormcast helmet. And when I get around to doing mine, I'm going to helmet her just because I typically don't like unhelmeted heads. I guess I kind of make an exception for named characters. That's true. Yeah, I'll probably... maybe I won't. We'll see. We'll see how I'm feeling that particular day when I bust out the model and I'm like, I'm doing this! I will say, it might be lights out for my Slaves to Darkness, though. We might be getting the old eBay treatment. They're just sitting on the shelf mocking me, not letting me use them in the allegiance abilities of any of the other Chaos Gods. It's like, man, we used to have something special. Now we're nothing. Let's see. Huge problem for me, I'm using Gordrak. I love him, don't care to try anything else, but there's zero way to ward him. Oh, like to give him any kind of ward. Yeah, that's such a strange thing. I feel like that discussion, it started with the Auric War Clans book, but became much more prominent with the Maggotkin one, and the discrepancy between a Great Unclean one and Rodagus, where it's like, you know, one is just flat better, not because he's like his stat lines, but just because you have options with him. And I think that's always been a sore spot when it comes to name characters. It's like, man, if you can't do anything to change them, they gotta be good. And then it's so hard to have a unit that's good, and then some, like, in that level of good, and then not get people who are salty about it just being Hero Hammer of named characters all punching each other in the face, which honestly I wouldn't have a problem with, but that's an opinion. But it's a tough balance. But honestly, you know, if you just want to run Gordrak because he's Gordrak, I totally get that too. I'm a sucker for name characters. See, I'm the opposite. I don't know. For some reason, I tend to always in my head assume that like name characters just have better places to be than whatever engagement Generalissimo Doug Griggs is in charge of. Right? Like maybe that's just my fear of having to work near management from real world bleeding in or something. I don't know. Because, you know, like when, you know, your boss is like takes the day off and everything's just so much more chill and everyone actually gets more work done because they're not have someone riding their shoulders. That's basically how I feel. Like, oh man, Nagash is here. He's staring at me. I gotta look busy all the time. And then I start making stupid decisions, you know, stuff that really wouldn't vibe with Nagash. He starts trying to claim my soul, much like my bosses did at my last job. You know, the usual. I also have a problem with using my own color scheme, so Gordrak is painted like a goon. That's funny. You do whatever. My favorite question when people are new to the game is like, can I paint them however I want? Yeah, dude. Conversely, I love when people post pictures of unpainted models and someone comments, oh, they surely have paint on them. The best response is like, well, come on over and grab a model then. I'm not doing it. I'm like, okay, you know what? Fair enough. This is an Underworld's hero, and it had some interesting cracks and crevices. Okay. Question, good sir. How many Castigators will you field in your Stormcast army? Well, I got 9, so I don't see myself buying any more. So I'm going to say somewhere between 3 and 9. As is the size of the units. As far as how much I will generally do, I don't know. I'm going to play around and find out how effective they are. I've mentioned this before, like, so I have a lot of Soulblight players near me, and there's a piece of Chaos guy up in Cedar Rapids. But, so I need some shooting to be able to handle some of the heroes, because I can't out-attrition them. But I also don't want shooting to, like, suffocate the game. You know, I have no interest in deleting my opponent turn 1 or 2. And so I'm hoping that the Castigators are a little bit more of a reined-in option, you know? Not quite lose your frenzy. And I'm just going over with the Baraknar Burgundy one more time, just fleshing out this guy's cape. Let's see. So yeah, I don't know how many of them are actually run, but it's one of those things. Like I got them primed. Might as well batch paint them together because why not? Perfect. And what would I do next for these guys? I think we're good to move on to golds and stuff. So I like to do... No, I do the blues next. That's I gotta get the order right. So you do the blues on the shoulder pads, and then you do the gold rim to trace it in and clean it up. And it goes pretty quick. Got some Thousand Suns blue. Let's see. I feel like named characters are stupid because they'd be heading up hordes and hordes, not 20 guys in a conga line. I like them. I definitely like the option to have named characters, or especially if you're doing like thematic battles and that kind of thing. You know, is Manfred von Karstein gonna walk out with every bunch of yokels that he sends from Shyish? No, probably not. But I like that he is an option, kind of a thing. So I'm kind of torn on that, but I see your point. Right, he's not, you know, and that was honestly my point with my problem with War Machine. I always had that problem. If you don't know War Machine and Hordes, you have to have a leader of your army, but there's no capital emphasis on no non-named characters to lead your faction. Everybody's an important person. It's like, well, they left no room for me to create my own stuff or anything like that. Actually don't even need a whole lot of this stuff because we just are picking out just a handful. 10 shoulder pads because I forgot. Oh, and this thing back here. I forgot that they don't have shields because they are Castigators. I remember being a wee lad and worrying about not being able to play with my toys because they were painted a certain way. Glad that phase passed. Yeah, absolutely. And I think the only caveat is with wargaming that is like that is historical stuff. And even then, I have not really seen anyone be too much of a jerk about it. Usually I just try to find some way to justify the paint schemes if there is a discrepancy, but it's like, you know, with like Napoleonics and that kind of stuff, it's like, hey, you know how this army looked 400 years before? Oh, it's super different, bro. When you get into the more of the World War stuff, that's where people get really nitpicky. Let's see. Do you play in the Indianapolis area? No, I am firmly in the eastern Iowa neck of the woods. Cedar Rapids, Iowa City, that sort of thing. Never made my way out there, but I should. But I've heard good things about the area. Should go check that out sometime. I rarely play, but I get that. I try to make my friends play 4K battles, but it takes days. Yes, for sure. What color is this? This is Thousand Suns blue. Yes, I tried doing the official paint scheme, but I thought the blue was too dark. I can't even remember because it's been a long time since I tried the, you know, the quote-unquote official color scheme, but They released these colors when they did the Thousand Suns book for 40K. Obviously, that's the theme behind the names. I think there's Aramon Blue was the highlight for it that came out. And they are my favorite blue colors ever. I think if you want something similar from Army Painter, I think Crystal Blue is probably their closest. But yeah. Highly recommend. I used to I try to use basic hero units as my lords when I like to try. Oh yeah. Yeah. Try to just have some normal dudes running around with all these named characters. Absolutely. I think the two factions that need to have the most kick-ass non-named character options: Cities of Sigmar and Slaves to Darkness. I think they could both benefit from GW being like, let's crank these guys to 11. Oathstone. Oh, hey, buddy. I haven't seen you in a while. Oathstone. Have you covered the Chronicles of the Wanderer stories yet? No, I haven't. Is that is that on Black Library? Like, is that a collection of theirs? Most of the stuff, I'll have to see if it's on Kindle. So most of the Black Library books I read, I just download on Kindle because that's what I typically read with. But I know that they're not all there, so I will check that out. If it's not, I'll find a way to get a hold of it. Always creeping. 6 Dwarven stories from the White Dwarf. Do I have the vault? Oh, the vault. So when you get like Warmer Plus, yes, I do. Hey, I'm in time for a stream. That guy, you know, kind of on a forced break, locked myself out of my office. Oh no. Well, welcome for what it's worth. Here's the real question. Are you still getting paid? If the answer is yes, pull up a seat, buddy. We'll say you're in a very important meeting. I'm just going lightly back over just to add another thin coat of blue to really build it up a smidge, just so there's no streaks. As much as I love the highlight Aramon blue, it tends to have less pigment. So if you do have a streaky Thousand Suns layer, it will show through just a bit. Just a heads up to you. I haven't noticed it so much on like detailed parts, but on these big flat panels like the shoulder pads for these Stormcast, it does show up a little bit for me. Hey Hugh, bye Hugh. If you played Gits, would you be Squig, Troll, Moon Clan, or Spider Fang? If I played Gits, ooh, that's a tough one. It's between Squigs and Spiderfang. I like the Spiderfang a lot. I love the Arachnarok model. That's a tough one. That's a toughie. I don't think I have a solid answer. Because like, if somebody was like, "Hey, I have a Gits army. Do you want to play the faction? You know, I'll cut you a deal, or whatever." I'd be like, "Yeah, what you got?" And whatever they offered me, I'd probably fall in love with. But I think if I had the choice, what would I do? I'd probably go Spiderfang because I know that I'm gonna have Bone Splitters, and then they would at least look cool together on the table. And I like their poison and synergy and that kind of stuff. It's pretty cool. Would love new spider models. Agreed. Agreed. Okay, we'll put all those guys to the side, grab a crappier brush. Which is most of my brushes. Haha. Just the right kind of crabby. Here we go. Let's see. Wargamer Willie, thank you. Thank you for shilling on my behalf. I appreciate it, buddy. You know what's really OP? This sweater from 2 Plus Tough. Oh, thank you so much, buddy. I tend to be very hesitant to self-promote simply because I don't know. You know, we've all heard podcasts or shows or whatever when they're like way too spammy with stuff. Never wanted to be that. But I gotta work past that. Now for their crossbows, I'm not doing much that's super fancy. Pretty much just gonna do this and then like a sepia wash or maybe even a Gilliman Flesh contrast shade wash. I don't know if you've seen that. It looks great. Dug 100% on your side and tried a wet palette by making it and failed. I just never liked it. I don't know. Part of it is I just like having like physical space, no matter how big a wet palette is. I like being able to just like move around this palette and just, I don't know, flow from one color to the next. Okay, that's a satchel. We don't need to paint that. I will paint whatever this thing is. That's right, I forgot. my Stormcast, I do the full gold halo. I didn't on my Hallowed Knights forever ago. When I wear the sweater, I only roll 6s. Yes. Yep. Yeah, that's a patented promise. But yes, I should make a funny commercial. I should do that. That way it doesn't feel so awkward. Buy your 2+ tough merchandise. Beautiful women not included, but should be expected. Okay. Cool. And just gotta wait for payday. Oh, well, thank you. Okay. Good. Forgive me going quiet every once in a while. When I get into these really tiny nooks and crannies, I tend to shut my mouth so I can breathe. You know, do like the and kind of suck it all in and just get in there, those detail parts, and then breathe out. Palette needs a palette. One thick coat out of a bottle for me. There you go. That's fine. It gets them painted. The main reason I use a palette at all is I do like to thin my paints because I find it helps me with detail. But like, at no point have I in my life have I ever been too good to just like spray prime Space Marines red and then just straight up dunk them into some kind of, you know, like the oh, what's the army wash stuff the army painter has, where you literally just dunk the models in floor wax. Okay. Part of the nice thing though is that once you figure out your paint scheme, like I did with my Knights Excelsior, man, even different configurations of it tend to go real fast. Greg's grunts. I just slap it on at the bottom. Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, and like, you know, depending on the kind of paints you can get, even just doing that, you get some very different results. For example, that black gray that I used, not black gray, the gray that I used for the Griffhounds thing, it's from a paint company called MIG, I think. And those paints are so stinking thinned out, like straight from the bottle. I would absolutely just put those straight into a model. Who cares? Nice. Let's grab one more. Let's grab one more goon. That way we can at least end the stream saying we've painted a unit's worth. Gotta have those small victories. Let's see. I use Turbo Dork Curacao for Rubik Marine. Oh yeah, I've heard of that. I think, man, I think I've seen that on a buddy's Dweghome, I think, for Conquest. Let's see. Testing a Stormcast scheme now on my OG Underworlds box, trying for a copper color. Nice. I had good success with, what's it called? I got it right here. Runelord Brass I like quite a bit. It depends, because copper can have lots of different tones depending on how it's like polished or whatever. So I won't butt in with any suggestions there, but I tend to like those colors as well, to the point where I've definitely thought about doing a Khorne army just to paint a lot of copper and brass. Like, oh yeah, he's all about blood. We got copper and brass everywhere. Everything's gonna taste like a nickel, because if it ain't flavored by blood, it's flavored by brass. You know how Khorne do. I'm going crazy painting an amble. It's got earthly green carapace, metallic pink mandibles. Oh, that's awesome, dude. Have fun. My favorite way doing copper is Gore Grunta Fur. Oh, the contrast over Lead Belcher. Oh, that would be cool, because Gore Grunta has that like reddish hue to it, wouldn't it? That sounds gnarly, and I will check that out. That's an interesting idea I hadn't considered. At this point, I'm pretty much just going to go until I use up the Retributor Gold on my palette right now. My dry palette, as I'll say, just to make it sound fancy for anyone who's like, oh yes, my wet palette. Palette. Did, I will ask, how many of us picked up the Fireslayer Deepkin box? I'm very curious to see how that went over. It was an interesting set, just because Fireslayers is just such an interesting army because of the very, very limited number of kits. Like, any of those starter sets that they offer, you have, like, not half an army necessarily, but you own more than half the product list in it. And I never quite understood why they made them so small, like of a faction with options and stuff. But I say all that because I do like them. They are one of the coolest armies, in my opinion. At least from a lore standpoint, the Fireslayers, that is. Deepkin, I could pass on them. I wish they were more chaosy, if I'm honest. We were having that discussion in my Discord of like, if you could change something, what would it be? And for me, I was like, take them out of order, make them actually bad guys. Not me, busy with Christmas Battle Force. Oh, you did? Right on. Kid Casey. Started Deepkin recently. I felt like it was a good way to boost my army. That's fantastic. It certainly is for that. I could definitely see that. Especially if you're just looking to get some cool... You get a cool story out of it. I do eventually want to get that booklet and do a lore series on it, but I haven't known anyone personally to snag it. Like, soul rating seems like a pretty non-good thing, right? Right? That was always kind of my thought. Although, here's a question. I don't have a lore answer to, but we can. Here's what we'll do. All of us here, we're gonna speculate and we're gonna come up with an answer, and then we're just gonna, you know, just keep talking about it like it's fact, and maybe we'll accidentally, in a positive way, gaslight some Black Library authors into making it canon. Here's the question. Okay. All right. I'm gonna start with a situation, then the question. Situation. A mortal dies in the mortal realms. Their soul goes down to Shyish. Okay? Super crappy. Nagash is a bad master. Well, he's an honest one, but he's not nice, right? I think we can all agree upon that much, at least. He's doing his thing. He tortures the soul. But, conversely, if that same mortal gets killed by a Deepkin, and their soul is taken and put into a Namarti thrall... What is that afterlife like for that mortal? Like, I guess I'm assuming that the Namarti thrall is its own person and personality, and so it's taking the animus of the victim, but not necessarily its personality. Like, it has been mentioned in the lore book that, like, if you take the souls of orcs, they'll get a little more feral and aggressive and that kind of stuff. I mean, like, temperaments, sure, but I don't mean, like, if Larry's soul gets put into a Namarti, the Namarti doesn't wake up and go, "Hi, I'm Larry," right? It's an identity thing. So, I don't know. I don't have an answer to that. What do you guys think? What happens? Like, I guess I'm asking, is it better to be taken by the Deepkin than going down to Nagash? Because I don't know what the end game for a soul looks like for someone who gets taken by the Deepkin. And I don't know. I mean, can we just assume that either way you're hosed, right? You're not having a great time, but I don't know. And on the off chance that he's watching, Aaron Dembski Bowden, I know you play Deepkin. You can write a book and solve all this mystery. What do you think? Let's see. Just waiting on the new Battle Tomes to come out. Do I know when they'll be out? Nope, no idea, unfortunately. They have not said a thing to us. I only get a notification like they announce that it's going on for pre-order next week, and then I get an email like that following Monday before the pre-order window opens up. So I never know, unfortunately. Brent, Doug painting is the well-oiled machine I wish I was. Oh, it's super easy, man. You can join me. We'll line them up. Get you some minimal viable product painting out there. I assume it's like being trapped within another person's body where you have no control or agency, like a spectator. I imagine it's really uncomfortable. That's an interesting take. I figured they were basically chopping up the soul and using it for fuel. I think you cease to exist. That makes perfect sense as well. It's probably not great. Here's the web definition of thrall: a person who is morally or mentally enslaved by some power, influence, or the like. I don't know if it's better. Yeah, I've seen that. I did read that like some, yeah, if they get orc souls, they'll be more fighty and that kind of stuff, more primal. I like that. Now see, the idea of the soul just dying and being no more, I still think is a win compared to eternal punishment at the hands of Nagash. Like, eternity is a long time. You know, I mean, I guess at least if you get turned into a geist of some kind, you can go up and fight people and be like, oh, field trip, you know. But man, I would like to be enthralled. Yeah, I don't know. But I just want someone to tell me. But yes, I think the core argument is whatever it is, it sucks, and true death is probably just slightly better than having to do what Nagash tells you to do. Now my plan to paint these guys very simply is to cover the entire weapon tip in lead belcher, and then with a red contrast go in and pick out the actual parts. So if you don't know, the Castigators are basically shooting vials of, like, is it lightning or is it holy water or something? I mean, it's something ridiculous. It's an absurd weapon to fight Night Haunt. and they are launching it out of their crossbows, so that's pretty cool. But if you do the Blood Angels Red contrast paint over Lead Belcher, it does this super nice cherry red kind of a look. Oh, it's beautiful. And the nicest thing about these guys is they don't have 1,000 little doodads all over the place. Like, they don't have like 3 knives in their hilts or on their waist. They don't have like a fanny pack, a backpack, and a set of wings, all this crap all over them like some of their Stormcast models do, where you're like, I'm tired of painting you. Just die. Basically how I felt about Liberators. They kind of talk about something like this in the Horus Heresy book, Fulgrim, at the very end. It's more demonic possession. Yeah, I mean, I know what you're talking about. It's not quite the same thing, because Fulgrim stuff just doesn't happen at the same scale as like a Soul Raid would be hundreds of people. So I guess I'm asking, I guess, and the nature of death in 40k is a little bit different than AOS. What with the literal God of Death walking around and available for $120 US. He's a bargain. But yes, Brett, I know what you're talking about, because Fulgrim is my favorite of the Horus Heresy novels. Followed quickly by oh my gosh, Flight of the Eisenstein. There we go. Took a second. Maybe the souls inside of Deepkin are being tortured just like the ones inside of Slaanesh. It is possible. They are defective. That's... I don't know if it would be quite the same extent, but that's certainly a possibility that, like, at least for the soul itself, the act of being inside of somewhere where you don't belong is like a sensation of torture. I could get that. I, for one, would certainly not want to be trapped inside the body of an edgelord. What's this about Castigators being OP? You know, the secret sauce to any winning list in Stormcast is Castigators. This is elementary stuff, man. Please don't make me have to repeat it. Don't embarrass yourself. I'm just messing with you. I just wanted to get attention. as is the plight of every YouTuber. Alright, let me just grab some red. And I'm not going to do the metal parts just yet. I want that Lead Belcher to have more time to dry. But don't worry. What I intend to do is keep a kill count of the number of vampires and necromancers that these guys take out, and publish them with wild exclamatory titles, you know, like Castigators are now OP kind of a thing, just to try and, you know, trick people into thinking outside the box when it comes to Stormcast. I have enough of those people in my life who are like, well, I heard on this channel that this is the best, most competitive thing. It's like, all right, new strategy. Just start saying that stuff is OP and competitive with no tournament results, just personal out of context experiences. See how far we get. It's gonna be dope. And I do unfortunately have one guy here with his helmet off, so let's grab horde. There we go, Fire Slayer Flesh. I think the biggest obstacle is that the soul isn't really being reformed like how Nagash and Sigmar do it. It's literally ripped out and shoved in a new body. Do you think they retain memories? Yeah, it's the thing I don't know. We have no idea. I'm hoping the new Deepkin book sheds a little bit of light. I'm all ears. I mean, I would love to do a video that's just like, what is a soul? I mean, just very, very bluntly of like, you know, they made a big deal when the soul wars have begun. It's like, yeah, but you haven't articulated what that means enough for us to like care. But yes, you are correct. It would matter quite a bit. Because then it could be useful. Because then, I mean, couldn't you just target, like, for example, let's say the Deepkin wanted to move into a new area. They would soul raid specific regions to pick up people who probably knew the land really, really well. So then they would gain knowledge. Like, if memories are so powerful, like, I don't know. Some farmer being a Deepkin. These kelp beds are running rampant. Yes, exactly. Iso's enjoying a glass of wine after the family's gone to sleep, painting up my Celestius Castigator Underworld Warband. Oh, that's right. I forgot that's the name of the guy. At the moment, feels good with some company. Oh, you got it, buddy. Let's see what else we got. Cyber Brand. Wildwood. Made some good progress on these guys. Once this step is done, getting the browns and stuff for the little satchel packs that they all have, then they'll pretty much be ready for washes. And then it is a hop, skip, and a jump until they are all done. Boom. Speed, painted, Stormcast is the best. Some of these guys don't even have fanny packs. Okay. Okay. Speaking of souls, the way Sigvald's soul was floating around for eons didn't make sense. Oh, you didn't like that? I actually loved it. I loved it. He just kept being such a turd that he just kind of kept getting hot potatoed from one reality to the next. Like, no, I don't want this guy. You take him. I don't want this frickin' guy. I loved it. That was my favorite. That was my favorite way that they've ever brought an old world character back. I would say he's on one end of the spectrum, and my least favorite way that an old world character has presented itself in AOS has definitely been, what's his name? Thanquol. Where there's no explanation. Yeah, he's just kind of here. You're like, oh, okay, that's it. You couldn't give me anything, could you? Couldn't have said he fell out of the sky, really cool. I couldn't have given him an epic story like Gordrak. And Thanquol. with no accompanying story or like thing to make him sound epic. Okay, cool. Thank you. Thanks for not squatting my brand new model. Oh, I don't doubt that it was, you know, quick draw lore that was just pulled out of somebody's hind end just to kind of fit the character in. I have no doubt. You can definitely see the shift when they started figuring out, like, oh, wow, people really like Total War Warhammer. Maybe there's something to this old world that we're all hearing about. And you're like, you own the frickin' IP, bro. Stop acting so surprised. You're not allowed to act surprised. Where's that? Here we go. Wraithbone. Oh, what did I say? Did I not say thankful? But yeah, that's what I meant. Sorry. The rat guy with his little bone ripper. This, I'm just snagging these little bits of parchment so I can just do like some skeleton horde or something on them just to make it real easy on myself. But yes, I have never cared for how can we get more old world characters here? You know, that really wouldn't be a tough question if you didn't blow up the old world. Which I shouldn't say, because I actually do really like AOS. I like the characters they made. I love a lot of it. Although I will say, playing Vermintide makes me appreciate the old world more than I ever did before. Not because I didn't think it was cool, I just came into the game right when it was being sunset, so my experience was really just pretty much limited to the End Times books, which were beautiful and extremely well-made cool things. Welcome to the Mortal Realms. Now including thankful. Exactly. No, it's just his reason for... Oh, yes, exactly, yeah. And now for something completely different. A mouse riding a giant flesh abomination. Why? Because I want your money, that's why. Duh. Let's see... 100% blame Doug for getting me back into the hobby again after 20 years. Yay, I got you. Take a sip of wine. Just, it helps. The wine content helps offset some of the tears. If the wine's sweet enough, the salt from your tears will help kind of, you know, balance it out a smidge. So, all right, I'm just going to go ahead and start getting ready to wash these guys. So I'll get his hair real quick. Let me get that. And that way we can end the stream just because everything just needs to dry for a bit. Having a difficult time understanding battalions and how to build my army. I understand it's based off a 1 or 2k point game in battle lines and leaders, but that's all. So Danny, yeah, let's walk through it, brother. First you choose your point level. So you have... your point level will determine a few things, like how many battle line units you need to have, that kind of stuff. Assuming you're playing matched play. If you're doing Path of Glory, it's more of a choose your own adventure, do whatever the hell you want type thing. When it comes to battalions, so they have in this game now what's called core battalions, which everybody has access to the same ones. And they just kind of outline your kind of balance between hero units and regular units, that kind of stuff. I can get a page number for where that is in your book if you give me just a sec. Those are actually free, and because they have very limited abilities and stuff. Now, inside each army book, there are still narrative battalions, but those are mostly used for narrative play and that kind of stuff. They just got so hard to balance that apparently at some point Games Workshop was like, that's it, no more battalions. Took it away from everybody. Really, the most important thing when it comes to army building, very simple. You just need to have, based on the points recommendation, so 1,000, 2,000, that number of heroes and battle line units. Anything else is just extra stuff. So yeah, I'll tell you what, let's do this. I want to give that paint just a hot sec to dry. And we're going to go over here to the list builder, and we're going to list build some nonsense. Is this my... Oh, look at that. Stare into the void, everybody. Okay. War Scroll Builder. Okay, so let's build a really crappy list together. And I'm gonna, on the other screen, pull up something else here. Uno momento, por favor. Okay, so we're gonna go to order, choose our allegiance. We're going Stormcast Eternal. Select our Storm host. I play Knights Excelsior. Mortal Realm. Who cares? I'm not from anywhere. Oh, that's not true. I'm from Gur. Grand strategy. You don't have to worry about that for the purposes of points list building. It's not about points. And so we're going to build our list from the available roster of Stormcast units. And here, yeah, so we're building a 2,000 point army. Let's start there. Actually, I want to go 1,000 points just because if you are unfamiliar with this stuff, I do think it tends to be a better move to start really, really low, like with lower point levels, so it doesn't get overwhelming. And so, let's see here. Let's pick a leader. We're going to break the glass ceiling, and we're going to put Astria Soulbright as our leader in general, because she's awesome, and she likes to hunt vampires. Oh, man, if I played Hammers of Sigmar, I would absolutely run that narratively. So we have Astria Soulbright, Bright. There we go. Astria Soulbright. And as you can see up top here, it has 1 of 3, so it's no longer red, meaning we've satisfied our condition. In a 1,000 point game, you need to have 1 hero or leader, but you can have a max of 3. And now for battle lines, you see we have 0. We have to have 2 or more. So we go into the unit section, and we're just going to pick some Liberators just because they're super easy, and we'll double up. Now at this point, we have a legal list. It's dumpy. I wouldn't run it, but even in a 1,000 point game, you can always come in under. It's just is what it is. So we've met all the requirements, but let's talk about these battalion things that you're talking about. Let me pull the images up here on the other screen, and I'll bring them over. Now, there is a fantastic article that I am going to put into the chat for you, Danny. This is by Goonhammer, and it's this page here, and we'll walk through it together. It's essentially walking you through how to build a list. And so you have your points limits, leader requirements, so between 1 and 3, 2 or more battle line units, and then for these, it's just you can have 0, but a maximum of 2 when it comes to behemoths and artillery and all that kind of stuff. I'm not super worried about that. Allied units, this is how many points total you can take, and that's all that really matters for list building. So let's get to the battalions. So core battalions are totally free and super available to you no matter what. And essentially the way that the game works is that as you're adding units to your list, you can additionally add them to one of these battalions. So let's take an example. Let's go with Vanguard. Okay, we'll go with this one here on the bottom left. If we look at what these icons mean, Sub-Commander, a leader with a wounds characteristic of less than 10. Well, hey, she has less than 10 wounds, Astria Soulbright. She's only got 8, so she meets that requirement. Along with her, that's mandatory in this battalion, is a troops unit. A unit that is not a leader, artillery, or behemoth. It doesn't have to be battle line. It just has to not be anything that's listed here, which we have. Liberators count as not being a leader. They're not artillery and they're not behemoth. So that means we could, if we wanted to, we'll scroll down here to core battalions and we'll add our vanguard, which gives us, and I'll talk about what it gives you in a second. But then if we scroll back up to our units, you see the core battalion option. Now we can put them in the vanguard. Boom, and that's it. That's all there is. You can have as many of these battalions as you want in your list, provided that you have the units to meet the requirements of them all, and a unit cannot be in more than one battalion. That's all there is to it. Now, what do we get for that? Well, if we go back to our Goonhammer article, we'll see that the icon for what you get with Vanguard is Swift. Once per battle, one unit from this battalion can receive the at the double or forward to victory command without the command being issued and without a command point being spent. So they just get to do it. And so that's a cool thing, especially, you know, it's not bad for liberators who really want to run up the board very, very fast. So that's all there is to it. This page that I linked also has all kinds of cool stuff regarding the grand strategies. It's mostly from the core book, doesn't include anything from the General's Handbook, but don't worry about that right now. That's none of your concern until you're more comfortable with this. But that's the basics of it. So on these little core battalion sheets, if they're in black, it's a requirement. If they're gray, it's optional. You can include them or not. But yeah, does anybody have any other questions? I didn't realize this was going to be so helpful. I thought I was just sitting here painting, doing nothing. Oathstone, I'm pretty excited for Total War 2. I gotta re-crack open number 2 or Total War 3. I gotta reopen number 2 and get back to playing it. Some of the ones of the benefits with these battalions are very apparent. So for example, with the Battle Regiment, you get a big hero, so a leader, any kind of leader, optionally 2 sub-commanders. So this is one thing that tripped me up when it came to using core battalions at first. You'll notice, we'll go up here to the Battle Regiment, okay? They have this icon in black, which means you have to have a leader. Any leader. Wounds does not matter. For the sub-commander, it has to be with a wounds characteristic of 10 or less. So that becomes exceptionally helpful. Like, you can have all 3 leaders, but only one of them can be above 10 wounds. So just kind of keep that in mind. I was confused because it said leader for both of them, but I was like, what are you talking about? So that's where I got confused. And then the rest of it is just looking at the icons at the bottom and seeing what benefit they give you. The most popular one is Unified, which is 1 drop, literally meaning everything in that battalion comes down at once. So, yeah. Danny, very, very helpful. I scoured YouTube for an explanation like yours, and it doesn't... Oh, well, hell. I'll make a video this week. Let me write that down. Anytime I find out someone's looking for something, I'm like, well, if you're asking the question, that means, 2,000 other new friends I'm about to make are too, so... How to list build. Okay. Sweet. Well, I'm glad I could help you. I hope that was enlightening. And we're back here. Let's grab our sepia. Is there a reason why I would choose one hero as my commander over another? No. For the purposes of the battalion, it doesn't actually matter who's the commander or anything like that. It's just a way of denoting how many wounds a unit has. So like a commander can have any number of wounds as long as he's a leader, whereas a sub-commander is specifically like a support hero, like a smaller one. So for example, like Gordrak counts as a commander. Doesn't matter if he's your general or not, but he's a big chonky dude. And then maybe trying to think of literally any Iron Jaws support hero. Weird Knob Shaman, right? Their magic user. They might be something else. They're a sub-commander. So when I do this, I'm trying to pretty much wash everything except the white. Actually, I'm gonna get a brush that has a little bit more control than that. But yeah, I hope that was helpful to you. I will definitely make a video about that this week. I'm making an army around Sigvold with a bunch of fiends and noodle horses. Oh, I like that, noodle horse. Sounds rad. Sounds rad. Sigvold's awesome. We were just, for sure, just talking about his triumphant re-entry into the mortal realms. But hey, if anyone else has a question about anything like that relating to AOS, please do not ever hesitate to ask. I am always happy to help. I can't tell you how to be competitive, but I can tell you how to play, and probably play pretty well. I'm not bad at the game. I don't have enough interest to learn like the really complex synergies and that kind of stuff, but I am very good at knowing the basics of the game. As far as like how to play for the objectives and that kind of stuff. Like one of my earlier Snowflake armies was a Slaves to Darkness one when I did them round 1. And you know, with that you didn't have as many spells or weapon options or anything like that. So it was just a matter of like, what's the objective for the game? Okay, that's what we're playing for. Because there's no other condition in which I win. Sure as heck not gonna table my opponent anytime soon with my, looks at paper, 30 Chaos Warriors with no rend. It was good though. Helps you get good at the game. So if I have 2 Vampire Lords on a Zombie Dragon, I'll need to have a Vampire Lord on foot as a sub-general because the Vampire Lords on Zombie Dragons have more than 10 wounds. If I got that right. Let me double check the chart here. That would be correct. But that's only if you keep them in the same battalion. So if we go back to our thingamajig here, you could have 1 battalion that's the command entourage and put 1 zombie dragon here along with 2 sub-heroes. Or you could throw him, of course, in the warlord or the battle regiment. Because there's no limit, you could absolutely have all of them in battalions, just not necessarily the same battalion. But yes, you got the idea. The number of times you failed to cast Winds of Chaos was astounding. Yes, Brent was there for my humiliation and destruction multiple times. It's gonna work! No, it's not. I got a +2 to magic because of bullcrap rules. This still doesn't work. And then there was one time we rolled it. It was successful, and then we double checked the measurement just to be sure and realized I was like 2 inches out, and I was like, mother. Ah, that was a good time. I try to be a good sport in all things. That was a real rough time. The conversion in that first Slaves army were pretty cool though. Oh, thank you. That's why I'm so torn about clearing out this second wave. I mean, I'm I've already decided instead of playing Maggotkin, I'm gonna part with them. I have my buddy Rob here who would be interested in them, just because I just don't need another project, another army that it's just gonna sit on the wall and take up space. You know, if it's a matter of collecting, I'd rather collect Stormcast kind of a deal. And so then when it comes to the Slaves to Darkness, it's like, well, part of me likes having the option of a Chaos army. Yeah, the rest of me is just like, who cares? I ain't using it. Okay, got that there. Sweet. These guys are coming together. Also, I'm a dingus. I just now realized that they're in... I remembered that they're in units of 3, not in 5. So, of course, I'm one guy shy from having 2 units done. Nice. I mean, they're not done, but... Alright. I love the Manicore, the skull face, so I did the same thing to mine. Oh, that's awesome! I forgot about that guy. Yeah, he was a fun one to paint up, for sure. Alright, friends. Well, the wash needs to dry, and my voice needs to... What time is it? 4:30? Pretty soon get some alcohol in it. So, I'm gonna go do that. And have myself a nice, relaxing night. I hope to be live tomorrow at some point. I'm gonna be working on some videos in the morning, but if my voice is not burnt out, then I'm... does the host option matter when making my army? Host. Host. It shouldn't. It depends. Oh, you're doing yeah, you're doing Slanesh stuff, right? So Danny, it will matter when it comes to your rules, because you have to pick a host whenever you play Slanesh. They all just lean into different aspects of Slanesh. Pick whichever one you want at this point. It doesn't really matter. If you're still learning the game, no one's going to force you. So I would say pass on that for now. But if you look in their battle tome, it does list out a few different hosts that you can pick. And really what it is just, what does my Slanesh army really like to do? And for some of them, it's go fast. Some of them, it's get into melee. That's basically it. So yeah, you will have to pick it eventually, but it's not super high priority right now. I would say certainly don't let it burden you if you're looking at other stuff. So, okay, friends, I will go ahead and close this up. I'm going to leave everything right where it is, though, so I can hop right back in, hopefully tomorrow, with painting these guys up. Yeah, let's see. All right, I will catch you all on the flip side. Happy wargaming.